will be on Parliament today here in South Africa because Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will deliver his third fiscal policy framework this year, or his third budget, as it were. While a VAT hike may now clearly be off the table, South Africans are still bracing themselves for what is a possible triple hit. There could be fuel levy increases, reduced medical aid credits, as well as a tax bracket creep, ultimately meaning you pay more with regards to the PAYE. With pressure mounting, civil society and industry voices are calling on government to think twice before making major changes that could tighten the squeeze then on already stretched consumers. Aldrin Sampear, of course, joining us live then from Parliament with a little bit more on this one. Then, Aldrin, it's going to be a tough one. We always speak about a balancing act then for the Finance Minister. The rope has just gotten a little bit tighter to try and balance on.
Yeah, and also, of course, Arabile, considering that you have the medium-term budget policy statement that would be supposed to be coming in October, so it all becomes all tighter and tighter. You were saying that we are in Parliament. Actually, we are outside the ICC, and that is, once again, I guess, speaks to some of the chaos related to budget and also the scheduling of it as well, because it was supposed to be taking place in that huge marquee opposite Parliament, but of course, now we have a third attempt at budget. It has now been secured here at the ICC, where the budget speech will now be delivered. So it's a different venue from the venue that we are used to. But you remember that after the elections in May last year, we were actually here at the ICC for that first parliamentary sitting following the 2024 elections. And now we are back here again. And maybe that is symbolic, of course, around the government of national unity that was formed after that sitting. And perhaps this time around, it would be third time lucky for Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana. But somebody who has been following this up and down with the budget speech is Matthew Sparks, who's the parliamentary coordinator for COSATU. I don't know how confident you are this time around, Matthew. Very good morning to you. That this time around it will actually go through.
Good morning. I think we are confident it needs to get done. The Constitution does provide space for delays in passing the budget by Parliament, but you can't obviously go on forever and a day. So I think for us, we're confident it will get done. Our fear more is about what cost containment will there be there. And we're worried that Treasury might revert back to brutal austerity budget cuts, given that the VAT is now off the table, which is a good thing. But I think also, concerning for us even more is about the economic growth projections. And that has impact upon revenue projections as well. The instability in the world economy around tariffs from the United States could have a real impact upon South Africa's economy. That could mean less revenue for the state, and which could impact upon the budget. So we hope Treasury gets the right balance. We hope they don't revert to the old budget cuts, because we really need to fix the state and grow the economy.
Well, in Budget 2.0, we saw an increase allocation to SARS, because SARS has asked for, listen, give us more money and we'll be able to collect more for you. Do you think that this time around, if you factored that in, and also the revenue that SARS has now stated following the financial year for 2023-2024 as well, that maybe things are a bit better now?
We hope so. We've got confidence in SARS. We think under the current leadership, they've done a fantastic job. They've improved tax compliance from 61 to 64%. That's an additional 60 billion rand a year in revenue. They've hired additional 500 staff. They've invested in the institutional capacity. So I think for us, we are hopeful that we should give more support to SARS. There's about 800 billion rand in outstanding taxes due to the state. So before you introduce new taxes, we should improve tax compliance of existing taxes and simply give SARS a blank check, give them 20 billion rand and say, can you improve tax compliance in the next 2 years from 64 to 70%? That's an additional 120 billion rand. We need to be aggressive around it, because it makes no sense to squeeze the nurse or the teacher to pay taxes, and then we leave people who are often very wealthy, often have large companies, fancy accountants, fancy lawyers and so on, who find ways to dodge the taxes. So we're hopeful that can be done, and we think that Parliament should really elevate tax collection to a priority. Call SARS in for monthly report backs. How far are they around illicit trade, around customs fraud, around income tax fraud, VAT fraud, etc. Because that's the way you will rebuild the state, and that will give the states the resources to fund public services, to invest in the economy and infrastructure, to give relief to the unemployed, to the poor. So we're hopeful that will really be the focus of today's budget as well.
Yeah. And then looking at personal income tax, especially with the conversation around the bracket creep, do you think that public servants especially have been given a raw deal here, considering the negotiations that were taking place and finally the agreement around the percentage of increases that will be taking place over the next 3 years. Because some of them are saying that I've already noticed that I'm paying more tax than what I was paying previously.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't notice a new tax yet because the tax year must still be finalized in the budget speech. But often what does happen at the end of the tax year, your HR management might actually have to do a bit of catch-up. You were under-taxed early in the year, so there's always a little bit of distortion the last quarter. But I think the point is correct. Last year there was no adjustment for personal income tax brackets. This year that's likely to happen again. So that'll be 2 years in a row where income tax brackets were not adjusted for inflation. And that means that those workers who received an increase, which put them into the next tax bracket, might end up paying much more in tax. And that's unfair because you're now on the margin. So I think for us, we really hope that doesn't happen. It can't be a trend. You can't fund the fiscal crisis in Treasury by not giving workers inflationary protection. So that's for us is a concerning point because on average, most workers, whether they're a nurse or a police officer, whether they work at a retail supermarket or in a clothing factory, workers are struggling. The cost of living has been significantly increasing. Electricity prices increased by far above inflation. Similar with fuel price, transport, food, and so forth. Workers need to be given protection from inflation. So we hope that they will adjust tax brackets for inflation, at least for the bottom 3 tax brackets which cater for the working class.
Yeah. Another issue around this is considering that there's going to be that 75 billion rand, the 75 billion rand shortfall over the next 3 years. How do you plug that particular hole, considering as well on the other end that there is a reliance on the revenue that government will be getting from that tax creep?
Yeah. So this year there's not such a big gap. It's about like 3 billion rand. The main part is really the next 2 years. It's about 31 billion rand each. That's not in taking into account growth projections as well. I think for us, number one is give SARS resources to go after taxes which owe to the state. That's far above that 30 or 75 billion rand. But also you've got to fix the economy. You've got to grow the economy. So it means making sure Eskom can provide reliable but also affordable electricity, making sure Transnet is fully operational, because that's key to our manufacturing, mining, agricultural sectors, huge earners of company taxes, income taxes. Make sure Metro Rail is operational in our city so workers can get to work on time, fix local government, which is a very difficult thing. So for us, SARS can assist in finding the shortfall, but we've got to grow the economy. If the economy stumbles along 1%, we're going to continue to struggle.
Growing the economy, very important, but that's also reliant on geopolitics that is currently playing out. Just quickly, as an alliance partner of the African National Congress, which is the leader of the Government of National Unity, the president of the ANC, president of the country, meeting Donald Trump later on today, what are your expectations? What do you want to see come out of that meeting?
Yeah. So we support the president's work in stabilizing and a positive reset of our relationship with the US. We've been working closely with the government on this project for the past 3 years. In fact, COSATU president is arriving today in Washington as part of the part of the South African delegation. I think we should just have low expectations. Just allow for a reaffirmation on both sides for the value of the relationship. Have an agreement for around a process to reset the relationship on the geopolitical irritants between the two countries. There's 2 ways. On a new kind of trade relationship, how can we address other concerns in the relationship? And then allow the officials in both governments about 3 months to kind of work on those details. We don't think it's unbridgeable. Most of the issues are fairly manageable. We may not give everything, but I think you can find each other in any negotiation. We've got confidence the president can do it. It is a delicate issue, but I think he's the best placed president we've had to really manage that complex, choppy waters. But it's important because the US is our second largest trading partner. US companies which invest here, South African companies which export to US, employ 500,000 workers from mining to manufacturing to agriculture. We can't afford this tariff. No car manufacturer can manage a 30% tariff duty. Farms also can't manage a 10% tariff duty. So hopefully it can be done quickly. It's not an easy thing given the level of noise of social media. But I think the president also is right. We need to have a national dialogue too, because the level of hate speech on social media, people spreading blatant lies about South Africa, that is not helpful and is hiding the real pains of our party, which are still prevalent, because largely if you're African or colored, that determines your career path largely. The unemployment rate for African and colored people is very high compared to white people. If you look at crime levels in our townships, it's very painful, horrendous. So the issue of the fake news is not helpful, and we're not sure where the white genocide is taking place. but we need a positive reset, and we think it can be done.
Positive reset. Thank you so much. Matthew Parks is the parliamentary coordinator for COSATU, as he's just heard. They're indicating that the president of COSATU will also be part of that delegation, joining the president in the United States as he has that meeting with Donald Trump later on today. But I think the difference for us also is that we have an Elon Musk situation going on as well. So that delicate balance has to also factor that particular aspect in as well, considering the negotiations around Starlink as well. That brings us to the end of the conversation. We will be here at outside the ICC throughout the morning as we build up to the budget speech at 3.0 to be delivered by Enoch Kotongwane. So a bit later on, we'll give you more analysis. Let's go to Khozo now. He's got the latest from the